Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the meeting of the Housing Supervisory Board. First of all, apologies from Vince Hunt. He's crashed his car. He's not injured, but obviously in that situation, I'm taking orders like a chairman for my first meeting and the first time I'm going to be
In at the deep end.
We're not expecting a fire drill today, but in the event of the alarm sounding, please leave the building and gather at the front of the building. I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Could I ask you to please ensure that mobile phones are switched off? And to start, asking each of us to start with you, Ruth.
Ruth Houghton, Councillor for the Bishop's Castle Division.
Thank you.
Tony Parsons, Councillor for Basin Hill, Column and Sutton.
Jeff Anderson, Councillor for Hartsfield.
Simon Jones, Councillor for the Shrewsbury Division.
Committee members.
Lucy Heath, Client and Commissioner Manager, Shropshire Council.
Lindsay Truman, Assistant Director of Development for Cornovi.
Ros Bridges, Finance Director and Company Secretary at Cornovi.
Harpreet Ray, Managing Director for Cornovi Developments.
Jane Trithewey, Assistant Director, Homes and Communities at Shropshire Council.
And I'm Councillor Gary Burchett, Councillor for Bagley and Deputy Chairman of this committee.
Shelley Davies, Committee Officer.
Thank you. Can I also ask you all to state your name each time you ask a question so that people on the live stream can hear who you are, who's speaking. Can I have apologies for absence? I've got apologies from the Chairman, Councillor Vince Hunt, Councillor Julian Dean and Councillor Heather Kidd. Disclosable pecuniary interests. Members are reminded that they must declare their disclosable pecuniary interests and other registrable or non-registrable interests in any matter being considered at the meeting, as set out in Appendix B of the Members' Code of Conduct, and consider they should leave the room prior to the meeting, the item being discussed. Further advice can be sought from the monitoring officer in advance of the meeting. Has anybody got any disclosable pecuniary interests? I'd like to declare that I am registered with Shropshire Home Point. I've been on the registry for 5 years since before as a councillor. I don't think it's pecuniary interest, but I just wanted to declare it for the members. Okay, go to the minutes. Can we confirm the minutes from the meeting held on the 16th of March 2023 and the 11th of May 2023? Can I have a proposal?
I'll move they're a correct record.
And second.
I'll second.
All in favour? And I'll abstain because I wasn't a member for the first meeting. Okay, public question time.
There's none.
None. And members' questions?
There's none.
Right, item 6. Cornovi Developments. Jane?
Thank you very much, Chair. So members have got a report which updates the board on the progress of Cornovi against its approved 10-year business plan. And there's a more detailed report set out in the appendix from Cornovi. Essentially what this does is to show progress of the company, giving updates on the approved schemes at Ellesmere Wharf, Ifton Heath, Oakland School and London Road sites, and covers investment in contractors and subcontractors from a Shropshire postcode, the average energy performance certificate and carbon savings levels, and employment and training opportunities created through CDL's activity, including educational settings supported by CDL. So what I will do is hand over to Harpreet Ray for some detail on this performance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. In terms of progress on site, we've got two developments that have been on site now for over 12 months at Ellesmere Wharf and Ifton Heath. Both had their challenges, mainly to do with service providers and ground condition issues. We're at the ground on both sites now, and we are trying to resolve complex electrical connection issues on both sites, and then finally a drainage connection at Ellesmere Wharf. We're hoping that the first lot of homes will be ready at Ellesmere at least by the early autumn. We're aiming between September and October, and with further homes then being handed over up until August next year. In terms of other progress, things have moved on since this report was drafted. We have actually started demolition works now at Basin Hill, which is our fourth development. And we're hoping that some homes will be ready to be handed over by next summer on that particular site as well. And I'll go into some of the more complex detail on negotiations we're undertaking at London Road because of commercially sensitive nature within the closed session. In terms of sales at this point, we because we've not got our statutory provision in place, we're not actually able to reserve any properties at this point. But once those are in place, what we'll be looking to do is looking to push forward with sales at Foregate Heath and Ellesmere Wharf. Happy to take questions at this point.
Any questions? Tom?
Yeah, can I just ask about the Oaklands development? I believe that the parcel of land next to it, which is owned by the church, there is now an application for planning permission on that adjoining patch. I just wonder whether that will have any impact on our development programme.
I was aware of the preparation for a pre-app. I believe the key issue with that site at the moment is access, and they are proposing to build access through the existing car park on the site. I wasn't aware that they'd actually submitted a planning application. I was aware discussions were ongoing. As the adjacent site owner, we have not received that notice at this point. So what I will do is go back and have a look at the planning portal afterwards, Tony, but I was aware of a pre-app around that.
Thank you.
Councillor Jeff?
Yes. You mentioned that you haven't got the statutory provision in place for sales yet. When do you think you will have it in place, and when do you think you'll be able to commence selling? Because of course, for the time being, you haven't got any income, have you now? So it's cut off.
It's very true. We're hopeful that we'll have the kind of agreements in place probably by the end of July, early August. But that note of caution from my side in that we need to kind of follow this process through, and the statutory provider there, which is Scottish Power, works slightly differently to Western Power, where we would have had these agreements maybe a bit sooner. But we are working with them as best we can, but we fully appreciate how busy many of these statutory providers are currently. So within the north of the counties, but everybody will probably aware of, we do have a slightly different makeup in terms of statutory providers than we do the rest of the county. Rather than having Severn Trent, it's Welsh Water. Rather than having Western Power, it is Scottish Power, and they work in a slightly different way to the other statutory providers, and I think that's kind of born out of their kind of performance levels.
Okay, and then Ruth?
Thank you, Chair. Given the current mortgage rate increases in cost of living, are you making any alterations to your sales projections based on that? And if they don't sell, what will you do?
I think the first point is we've always had very conservative sales forecasting across all our development programme, because we have been going, even at the start of COVID, a very uncertain period. So we are quite conservative in terms of the number of sales that we're forecasting on it across our sites, and that will kind of remain in place. Our primary concern at the moment is the removal of mortgage products from the market. And we've seen that recently in the news, the potential of further interest rates as well. In terms of the sale of property, we don't want any properties obviously standing empty, and we do have some interest in terms of the properties. But I think what we are, what we're mindful of, and I think everybody's mindful of within the housing market currently, is that we've had 2.5 years of rapid housing price growth, which means that more homes are becoming more unaffordable. What we've also had is high inflation and labour shortages, so building homes become more difficult as well. So we will probably look to kind of incentivise more our customers in terms of taking our products in the future, more so than we probably would have done during the last 2 or 3 years, and that's built within our appraisals as well. It'd be disingenuous of me to say that we think that we'll build these homes and they'll sell straight away at the market value. We are in the same place as all house builders at the moment, and we are having to kind of look at our production levels, look at our business plan, and making sure we're offering real value in terms of the products we're selling.
Thank you.
Jeff?
Can I ask, obviously we had a lot of problems with Ellesmere Wharf. How confident are you that we've resolved all the drainage issues?
About 50%. There's always something else on Ellesmere Wharf, unfortunately. Probably the site I'm least confident with, if I'm honest with you, Jeff. It's the one that keeps on giving.
Just a couple of questions, maybe, if you don't mind. Again, it's also this one. So, the Oaklands development, just curious What was the reason for not buying the second site?
The land aspirations by the diocese. We were in negotiations for a period. We were unable to meet their aspirations, unfortunately. Ideally, we would have liked both sites to come together with shared infrastructure. There would have been some savings there and a shared kind of services design. But we've got a really good relationship with the developer there, who's actually building out our site, Shingler Homes. And we're supportive of working in partnership on the basis that the community are on board with with both developments coming together. But the important thing for us is that we engage with the community throughout the process.
Okay, we'll follow up on the Ben's got a question there. Hang on a second. Come back to me. Yeah, with regards to Scottish Power and Severn Trent, have you factored that in for future developments? The fact that they need a longer lead time to get decisions off?
We're just not building in the north of the county. No, I'm joking. No. I think it's really interesting because this is you learn, don't you, as you're developing. And I've always worked where there's been Severn Trent and where there's been Western Power, and there's a process that you follow. And obviously the process, if you're dealing with Welsh Water, is very different because it's nationalised. It works as a regulation within Wales. And for us, what that's told us is, in terms of our assumptions around our programme, especially around us not being able to start until we've got full technical approval, that would really have to be factored into account in terms of how we move things forward. And in terms of Scottish Power, again, it's more to do with kind of capacity and backlog, which is something the chief executive has openly admitted, but you don't realise until you kind of gone through that process. So again, in my own mind, I think there's definitely a point of learning here and developing the programmes accordingly, and maybe trying to get your statutory provision in place in advance of maybe letting your build contract. But the risk with that is that you may come up with a design in which you get statutory agreement, but then once you've got a builder on board, they may be able to build it more effectively or efficiently, or there may be some other factor that you didn't fully consider in terms of the buildability. So I think there's definitely some lessons we've learned from this process.
Okay, excellent. And one final question. What's the average sale time from putting on the market to exchange of contracts?
For our first development, it could take anything between 3 and 4 months.
Yeah.
We're in a different marketplace now, and I think that's something we'll really need to test with when the properties get released at Ellesmere and Ifton Heath. And I think the key for us again will be a kind of the mortgage market, the availability of mortgage, and the kind of risk profile as well. So I don't think today I could give you an accurate picture from ourselves. But speaking to some of the house builders at the moment, some of the PLCs as well, the conveyancing process isn't as delayed as it was previously within COVID. That seems to have been smoother, but there seems to be more stringent checks with the mortgage providers. So I think we are looking anything between 3 and 6 months.
Right.
The challenge with that is how long your mortgage offer lasts for, which can actually expire within that period, unfortunately. So we need to make sure, that's the importance of the sales team. It's not just about selling the property, it's then pushing that process through and lining things up. And the other part as well is the risk of chains. We've all seen it, where things have collapsed because a property sale has fallen within the chain, and it's us being a bit more aware of what that risk is as well.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 7. To resolve in accordance with the provisions of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 and paragraph 10.43 of the Council's Access to Information Procedure Rules, the press and public be excluded during consideration of the following items. Can I have a proposal and second, please?
I'll propose. I'll second.
All in favour? Okay, so we'll just wait for the live stream to be disconnected. Now, I'll ask anybody from the press and public to leave the room.